Muhammad then turned to the Meccans, who had made war against him. But instead of punishing them, he offered them their freedom on the condition they cease fighting. Not only did they lay down their arms, but Muhammad's gesture inspired many Meccans to embrace Islam. The next year, 631 AD, was called the Year of the Ambassadors for the many delegations from Arab tribes who came to pay tribute to the Prophet and to convert to Islam. 1 year later, on June 8th, 632, Muhammad died of fever. He was 62. At that time, Muslims controlled the entire Arabian Peninsula.
Within 15 years or so, the Muslims have acquired an empire. They became the superpower of the time.
There was a kind of a roller coaster of conquests.
Within a century, the Empire of Islam encompassed an area larger than that of Rome at its peak. It was ruled by the first royal dynasty of Islam, the Umayyads.
The Umayyads were a family of Meccan nobles before Islam who also became Muslims and became the rulers or caliphs or khalifas in Arabic after 661 until 750. And they presided over the Muslim state, its largest territorial extent from Morocco and Spain in the west to China and India in the east.
And with every conquest, thousands converted to the new religion, some at the edge of a sword. But the vast majority of conquered people embraced Islam slowly over generations.
For several centuries after the rise of Islam, Muslims continued to rule as a minority. The order that the Muslims brought with them was one which was more favorable to the local communities, so that the local communities decided that it's in their interest, actually, to live under Islam.
As fellow people of the book, Jews and Christians were generally exempt from forced conversion to Islam, since they too submitted to the one God of Abraham.
We have reports, for example, that in the early period, in a place like Damascus, Christians and Muslims worshipped together in the same place.
And everywhere they went, the Muslims established a civilization built upon the values of the Quran, as exemplified by the 5 pillars of Islam, the sacred duties of every Muslim. After the devotional prayers of the Shahada and the Salah, the 3rd pillar of Islam is the alms tax, or zakat.
Charity is heavily emphasized in the Quran. If you compare what the Quran says in terms of regulating, let's say, the modesty of women, to what the Quran says about charity, there's no comparison. The charity is emphasized 10 times more.
The zakat is required of all Muslims with the ability to contribute.
So everything that you own, you take 2.5% and you give it. You pay it directly to the poor.
Today, local mosques or Muslim community organizations usually collect the zakat. But unlike tithing in a church, the zakat cannot be used to pay for the operation of a mosque. Instead, it must be entirely distributed to those in need. The 4th pillar of Islam is the sacramental fasting of the holy month of Ramadan.
Ramadan is a month in the Islamic calendar, and it's the month that Muslims believe the Quran was revealed to Muhammad, so it's a very holy month for Muslims.
Now, the fast means from the first twilight in the morning, about an hour and a half to 2 hours before sunrise, to sunset, you don't drink or eat or have any sexual activity.
Exceptions are made for the sick and injured, young children, the elderly, and expectant mothers. Like the fast of Christian Lent, this celebration of gracious cleansing is meant to foster inner reflection on the gifts of life and the needs of those less fortunate.
It's really 1 month in a year where you're supposed to advance your efforts, to intensify your efforts to build